Greetings, greetings. This is Body Culinary giving you all a quick shout and just coming on today with just some issues with, well, not so much issues, maybe some issues resolved with my fine, natural Afro textured hair. So I'm sharing because I have the type of hair that many people would say that they hate. It doesn't usually end up in styles, look like the styles that you want them to look like on YouTube. Or, for example, I was waiting for many years for my hair to go into this one particular cornrow style. After many years, when I was finally able to go to a master hair braider and who was actually super excellent, super clean, not tight, my hair just did not look the same because it wasn't as dense. And I also realized that the cornrows at the base were okay, but that they had added fine hair extensions into the end, which is what made it look so full. So I had waited for years, years and years and years for that particular hairstyle. My hair didn't come out looking like that. So not even 2 weeks ago, I had a little fiasco with my hair. So it's something I've gone back and forth with this fine hair. And I would say I didn't realize it's been my fourth year with locks. I don't keep track of it or how many locks I have, counting them. Yeah, one of the whole reasons for me being natural, although I love to play and be creative with my hair, is I don't want to fret over my hair. I want to move on and put that energy um, to other things. And so having locks has been like going natural all over again. So my recent fiasco was in putting some oil in my hair. I've gone long periods with absolutely no oil. So being in the sun, I literally just wash my hair, and when it dries, it can have a tendency to look very red, even almost blonde. And when the light reflects on it, even white, because it gets so bleached by the sun. I'm in an area where there's a whole lot of sun. So it could feel very dry when I'm out in the sun in the garden. And I've learned in recent months about my hair porosity. So now water's sinking in, but usually water just sits on top of my hair. So I've got all of these different things. Greetings. Um, yeah. So those are different things going on with this fine Afro textured hair. It's very fine. It's very delicate. Um, it breaks off very easily and when it's mishandled. So just a couple of questions. Maybe this could perhaps be helpful for folks with fine hair who look at all these YouTube channels and what products, trying to figure out what products they should use. So I haven't used any products in my hair in many, many years. If anything, I would use oils, different natural oils, maybe olive oil. Recently, I tried some flax oil. I keep it very, very light. And in the area where I'm at, there's a lot of fresh coconut oil because there's a lot of coconut oil in this area. So I have learned, though, also going back and forth to the States where it's cold, and I've experienced that the coconut oil, although I adore the smell, it will coagulate and it will get hard in the hair. So at one point, my hair started to get very, very stiff. And putting the oils in my hair recently, I had tried a method I saw somebody on YouTube, which felt great initially. But basically, it was mixing shampoo, all natural shampoo, with a light oil. And it felt fantastic because of my porosity. It opened up and it received the oil. But doing that a couple of times, at one point, I went to wash my hair and it felt stiff and it felt sticky. It felt like it had a lot of sticky oil in it. And so it felt almost impossible to get out. So now it's out. So I tried for the first time a baking soda and apple cider vinegar rinse, and that was the only thing that got that stickiness out of my hair. So I'm like, oof. So I'm like, I don't ever want to put a whole bunch of oil ever in my hair again. But I will say, I've also gone long periods of time without using any kind of shampoo, and it's not a lot available where I am. So I did find a natural shampoo. Usually I would use tea rinses. So I found this particular one, and this one doesn't have sulfates in it, which can be very harsh. It's pH balanced, it's vegan, which is important to me. It's cruelty free, no parabens, color safe, no GMAs, no phthalates, gluten-free, no colors added, and sustainably sourced. So what I have to say, what I found with the all-natural shampoo, and this one actually is empty. This is just olive oil inside. So what I found that they feel totally different from the cheaper shampoos like the Suaves. When I was a loose natural, I use more of those every now and then. I would get stuff from either from the food co-op and the health food store, or every now and then I would try, experiment with the cheaper shampoos. And I can tell you, I feel a total dramatic difference. My hair does not feel as stripped, and I feel more body using something that's totally natural. So I think it's worth the investment, similar to when you're investing in your fresh food, to invest in good quality things if you're going to use anything. And I would say this is about the only thing I use in my hair. I don't need to use it often. And so in between, I can still do water and herbal tea rinses like nettles, which I have in my garden, sage and thyme, those things I can pull out of the garden and make a tea with it. So this is just olive oil. So olive oil, coconut oil, I will put on my skin, but no more in my hair. So the other thing that I'm using on my hair and my skin now is I'll use, well, as I've mentioned on this channel before, I'll use fresh foods, on my hair and my skin. And then recently I had, a little breakout that's healing. So I encourage women, there are many women that may feel very self-conscious about having fine hair and also acne. So I have learned over the years to leave it alone. And so I'll take and make my own juices and teas and herbs. And that's actually what I'm putting on my face. So I'm not even using no proactive, no expensive products from the health food store. So I'll just take a cotton, and so it feels different, similar to when you're not putting oil in your hair. It's a different feel. Some people may say that it's very dry, but it's just a different feeling. And then also, I can say a huge distinction with locks versus fine natural hair, as I've learned the hard way, which I knew, but to have an experience is that everything gets trapped in your hair. So I'll take the cucumber. This one is cucumber and thyme and herbs from the garden and fresh juice. There is a video on this channel. And then also sometimes I'll use Jamaican lime. And so that's all that I'm putting on my face. No products. So I'm eating those foods and I'm juicing those foods anyway. And it's very, especially if you're hot, it's very cooling. I keep it inside the refrigerator. So because it's cool, it's really good to tighten your pores. And instead of spending on things that have a lot of preservatives in them and they're sitting on the shelf, because in order for these cucumbers and these different herbs and fruit juices to sit on the shelf, they have to put some type of preservative. Even if it's a little more gentle, you find it in the health food store. In order for it to sit and for it to be on the shelf, then you'll have to you'll have to, let's see, 1 second. Yeah. So you will have to, yes, you will have to put preservative in it. So let's see. Just wanted to report someone. Okay. Yeah. So you have to, or companies will put preservatives in it in order for it to have shelf life. My hair responds, and my hair and skin respond to fresh food. So I've heard it said for many years before that anything that you can't eat, you shouldn't really be putting it on your hair and skin. And I've actually experienced that to be, it's actually true. So also my hair, it's, where's my little, looking for my little towel. But anyway, I found that it dries very quickly because I don't have all of the oil in it weighing it down. So maybe once or twice, and also intuitively, when it got sticky with all that oil, I could feel that my hair, especially in a warm environment, could potentially be prone to mold or something. It felt so sticky. So I know it dries easy. When my hair is nice and clean and light, it does shrink. So we'll shrink up quite a bit when it's dry. And then also I notice it definitely does not dry as easy when it has a lot of oil in it. So I think I found that it's ideal, this particular style, for folks with very fine hair, because when your hair is very fine, quite often with twisting it at the root, and then it'll have a tendency to be very scalpy. So you'll see your scalp. And also, when you have fine, delicate hair, the hairline also can be very delicate, right? So I can't take all of that pulling, especially at the back if your hair is not as dense. So they are coming in flat, and you can see it more from the back. So I think also another benefit of having fine Afro textured hair is that if it's flat, it's going to look wider. So whereas it won't be as cylindrical, as circular, it will be fat, and so it will be nice and wide. So I think that's the benefit to balance out. Usually, folks with finer hair are trying to find styles that make the hair look fuller. So you trade off your hair being cylindrical for it being flat. So some of them now it's starting to get a little bit of length. I can see where they were joined, but these are more circular and these are coming in flat. So it's not a lot of tension, which is also a good reason not to put a lot of oils in it. Even though my hair is maybe, I would say, almost medium length, it started to feel heavy with the oils in it. So that to me is like kind of like an irritation. I don't like the feeling of hair, especially greasy hair, and especially as I'm in the heat in the garden a lot. I don't want to feel all that oil and dust on my skin, and definitely not on my back. So this feels a lot lighter, and it dries a lot quicker. So if I turn to the back, you can see, which I cannot see, that it's a lot more. They're definitely coming in flat. So I see most channels of people with locks, people are trying to find ways to not have flat locks. I'm actually finding that flat locks, I think, again, are ideal for fine hair, because then your hair does not look scalpy. Also, I really like the feeling of my hair being light. And I found when I take the same cucumber and thyme and herb spritzer, and I spray it on my hair, it's a wonderful alternative, and it's a lot less expensive than constantly buying more plastic bottles of rose water, right? Because, when I've heard different people talk about rose water when things are trending, we usually want to try it. So folks say it's not the regular water, it's distilled water. So I'm of the frame of thinking that the best water is Mother Nature's distilled water. So, and it feels really nice on my skin. It's not drying, it's not oily, and I feel like my skin is like normalized. So there's nothing on my skin except the cucumber and herbal rinse. I put some of it in a bottle to moisturize my skin, and then I put the rest of it on my hair, and it has like a really fresh scent. And again, it dries. It dries really easily. So again, to look at my hair, some people might not think that it's thin, but this is a great example of how thin and fine the hair is as it compared to when it starts to freeform. There's like a big difference. So if you look at these are nice and flat. So if you look at that compared to, see that really thin one. If you can look at this, look how tiny that is compared to this. This is a reason why, and this is nice, and this is much more spongy. This is much more spongy. So again, this is why, I'm trying. I think this is ideal. I don't want to have to come back and revisit my hair. If for me, I'm not totally attached. I've worn my hair very low before, and I have no problem cutting it off if it was hanging on by a string. So in terms of something that I started doing very lightly is brushing the hair, and that's only for lint. And this is such a delicate brush. I would even say a baby brush, just to get some lint. For the most part, I find with no oil, I don't really get a lot of lint. But I found for the month and a half, whatever, I started using oil, then my hair started to attract a lot more dust and lint. As far as retwisting, there's no retwisting going on here. And with fine hair, this is also an issue that comes up for many folks, is that the hair for some folks will grow away from the lock, right? So that can be a concern. So all I do, not being that I have Afro, down at the bottom is I can simply take this, and I love the ease of natural semi-free-form locks, and I just push it in. That's it. You're going to the lock. So the simplicity, minimalism when it comes to my hair is right up my alley because I can take that time and I can use it, for other things. My hair is not black; it's a brownish color. I don't have any intentions on dyeing it or adding any chemicals to it. I've been natural going on about 30 years, and that works for me. There's enough chemicals and other things inside the environment. So there's no retwisting. I know sometimes we can tend to obsess, about our hair. And so again, it's constantly becoming comfortable with you don't know what your hair is going to do next. So you can see this was really, really fine down here. These have joined together. The root is nice and clean, so you can see the natural shine is absolutely nothing there. But this is puffy. It's not dense at all. This can really flatten out. So I think the trade-off I've observed that the trade-off is that it will look wider and more flat. And it will definitely be more fluffy, which I like the feeling of the hair not being so hard. So I find with the palm rolling, I started out with double strand twists. Maybe I for a while I twisted a little bit, mostly at the root. But now it's growing in nice and puffy, and just to learn to relax. This is going to be wider and flatter than even this. But my main thing is that it's not super heavy or putting lots of oil in my face, and I want low maintenance. So in terms of semi-free form, right? Because my hair is so dense, I don't really want one or two or three locks. So I will gently separate them a little bit. But if I want to neaten up, so this is just as soft as a baby's brush, this is all that I would do. And I'm not over brushing. That's it. So for me, the ease of hair and also being physically active, that works for me. That's it. That's it. And sometimes maybe to smooth the lock again, if there's any kind of lint or something, but that's it. Shampoo. So to me, see what's free. I don't mind frizz. Again, if there's little pieces that grow away from the lock, I can just take my finger and I can stick them in. So the ease of taking care of my hair, which is a frustration when we're growing up. And then we start begging our mothers for perms to make our hair look and behave like something it doesn't want to do. So this is so soft. I remember I was looking for a soft brush. I initially found this one. So this is soft, but it's still a little bit too hard. So again, just a baby's brush, like a little bit of baby's brush is fine. So I don't do all the slicking of the edges. If I wanted to do like a little curly something here, either I use that same cucumber water or maybe a piece of aloe from the garden. But I'm not messing really with my hairline because again, this hair is extremely, it's just very, very delicate. It doesn't like to be handled. And so we can let the hair and the skin, we can let it rest. We can give it a break from years of trying to tug at it, pull at it, and get it to do different things. And I find that psychologically, um, it's a relief. It's a relief to be able to have light hair, you know, hair that can flow, but it's not going to totally behave like when I was coming up. I remember there were these commercials of bouncing and behaving hair. That was one of the commercials, was bouncing and behaving hair. So we want body and flow. When I was coming up, the young women, the girls would do what they call a doobie. So they get their hair straightened. I never wore a doobie, and they would wrap it this way, right? So when they would let the hair out and down, it would have some kind of body to it. So, I think chocolate women have always been trying to find our footing to be comfortable in our skin, especially when the companies are not really marketing and creating things specifically for us. So we've had to, chart our own path. But as the hair falls, because our hair grows up this way, when it's loose, natural goes up and out. Once it's together and it gets a little bit of weight and it falls over, if it's not weighed down with products, it will have body. I will definitely say again, that's the difference I see with periodically using a light, all natural shampoo, maybe paying a couple of extra dollars for it. You can even dilute it. So it's just really learning what our hair does and being comfortable with how it behaves, because it's its own unique beauty mark, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, you know. And again, for those women that have very fine textured hair, I feel like they struggle with fine hair and acne. Sometimes women may not feel attractive, you know. So be encouraged and sit, sit in your natural, unique Afro features, because I found going natural was really affirming. I never felt more beautiful, a sense of respect, you know, that I have, and appreciation for my own natural presence. I just have a deep appreciation. So it's more inspiration to take good care of my hair and my skin, and to be just very protective of what is me naturally. So, as far as the oil and shampoo, right now, yes, a little bit of all natural shampoo. It can be diluted periodically, because nothing would really get that twinky feeling. Like, if you remember those cakes with the creamy middle, nothing could help me really get rid of that oil, which felt like plastic. So I have to say that apple cider vinegar and a little baking soda, which I was scared to put it in my hair because it's so delicate and putting it through yet one more thing, but that was the only thing and they got it out. So periodic shampoo for me now is yes, right? So I don't really have any plans on putting any more oil in it. I'm just going to stick with all the fruit and vegetable juices and teas and elixirs I make is good enough for me. Just the shampoo is the one thing. So no oil. Yeah, I don't see any oil in the future, because it's true. You get some kind of buildup. I think everyone has some kind of lint. I'll also say, in doing the apple cider vinegar rinse with the baking soda, I could see like it would look lighter in some places. Then I realized there was a little bit of lint down at the bottom. So that started to come to the surface. But fortunately, being I have never put any gels in my hair. I didn't have buildup. So I pretty much don't have any buildup or anything in my hair. So, you know, that's a relief. I don't have any of that because I never put it in. So it's drying very fast now, and it's going to shrink up. So I'm just here to encourage you to appreciate your natural Afro textured features and the presence that you came to the planet with. Sit and appreciate. There's nothing wrong with adorning and beautifying. We love stuff like that. The best, I think, the most ideal in my experience, beauty product is your health. Your health is your number one beauty product. So you can be comfortable when you take off the extensions and the nails and the eye makeup, that your skin is healthy underneath, and realize our nails and our skin is actually telling us something. So we want to make sure that we see that there's no discoloration, no funguses, even with the lips, which I was going to mention. You know, with all of this makeup that's out and all this leveling up, I have found that when my skin is very healthy, I don't need anything on my lips. So my lips feel hydrated. So at one point, you know, in addition to eating living foods, the body has changed over the years. Actually found that when I would put things on my lips, they felt too heavy. So if I wanted to play around with gloss or a shine, I found the best thing is like there's these Mayan folks here. Hey, yeah, 1 and 3 months lock. I stopped retwisting 7 months ago. Oh, that's wonderful, Natalie. Isn't it a relief? It's just it's like it's a relief. And I will have to say, it feels like sometimes you just don't know what your hair is gonna do. Like a noose natural, when it gets to different lengths, we think, oh, we want this long flowing hair, but you don't know what to expect or how it's going to behave. And the same thing with locks. So I think our generation is really clearing the way for the next generation to come, so that our girls, right, and young women can see we have so many options on what to do with our own textured hair. And being in such a $1 billion business, I really, as someone that has traveled a bit, and when I look at the state of chocolate women around the world, I really look forward to seeing even more of an economy that filters directly back to the women that have this unique beauty stamp, because there should be no reason why we don't really uh, why that the economics that comes off of this unique beauty stamp is not circulating around to the women that have this unique textured hair. So we have the shea butters and we're doing more shampoos. But I think if we think of the example of Madam C.J. Walker, right, who was the first Black American Afro-American millionaire, that we can't take that lesson and upgrade it because she was selling perms back then, right? Something for Black women to feel beautiful right after, I guess, in the Reconstruction period, right after slavery, right? So I don't see any reason if this way we have this unique beauty stamp. So it's no reason. I just hope our eyes open more to the possibilities of developing economy so that when we travel, we don't have to see women struggling and having to, young women having to sell their bodies or do all different types of things to create a business when this is already a business that we're walking around with. So I love to stimulate positive, constructive conversation. So back what I was going to say, if I wanted to put something on my lips, which I can really feel like I don't need anything on my lips, I found that cocoa butter or cocoa butter, shea butter, it actually feels better than all of these vegan lip balms out here. And as somebody that doesn't like a lot of makeup, I don't feel like I'm eating plastic. Like when you wear lipstick, sometimes there will be that feeling like you're eating the chemicals. So I found my lips are hydrated without, you know, and what are you saying? Yes, my hair is thicker now. I have 66 locks. It's liberating. I'm 29 years old and I moved from London to Ghana. Wow. My hair loves natural shea butter and natural coconut water. I love it. I know. I love it. I love it. I've always been one from a very young age to love to make my own concoction. So it's interesting now to see in the last decade, the move towards natural, because ever since I would say since the late 80s, I've always been on this thing. I think I get it from my grandma of just making my own. My grandmother was big on eat your own food, right? So just finding shea butters and mixing my own oils and scents is wonderful now that to just see that it's such a huge option, it's such a huge movement. But I think there's even more room for us to grow. It's such a relief. It's such a relief because it's a big thing. Chocolate women just not feeling beautiful, you know? So yeah, I can appreciate the fresh look of makeup and when you're doing a photo shoot, but there is nothing like being comfortable in your own skin. Or I don't know if you can relate, because I talk a lot about on on this channel my journey with being natural, which I love the lifestyle, acne and fine hair. So sometimes it can really be psychologically mess with your head to feel like you're not attractive, right? To feel like quote unquote ugly, right? But it's another thing. When I went natural, I have never felt more beautiful than when I cut all of that the perm off of my head and I couldn't stop staring at myself. I was like the epiphany of I don't have to do anything to myself to be beautiful. I couldn't stop looking at myself. So whether my hair is short or it has locks, if anything, it's challenging to see what the hair is going to do next, right? But I have never felt more beautiful. So I would not trade it. You couldn't pay me to put chemicals, in my hair. And we're risking our health. I used to work in a holistic health center, and a primary complaint was of fibroid tumors and cysts. So similar to smoking cigarettes with the warnings on the package, the graphic warnings, there are warnings, there are no pictures on the box of the chemicals that these things can harm a fetus. So what's that telling you? And it's, if we know we can put pain medications and heart medications on the chest and then go through your pores, and what do you think is happening? We're putting dangerous lye and chemicals on the skull to, affect the brain. My hair grows away from my locks. How do I cure this? Well, I don't know about any cures, but I had just shown earlier, my hair does. So that is a big concern for people with fine hair, which is why many people go back to twisting. So that's a concern of mine too. But I have some hair that grows loose. But what I do is I had just stuck one in earlier. But if it is a piece here, being that there's so much room inside the lock, you have an afro, you can see I just pushed a piece through. That's it. I'll take it. I'll push it through. And as it gets moist, I take my little cucumber thyme instead of, which is the alternative to rose water. I put that video on his channel, and it will just mesh together. So, if we just relax and just sit in it, we can find solutions. I don't know if you call it a cure. That's what I've come up with, which is like a relief. So it just looks a quote unquote a little bit neater. So if I find little pieces, I just find the lock that's closest to it because you have this space here, and I'll just push it right through, and that's it. So it's a relief. It's a relief because a lot of us are concerned about the hair falling out or thinning, but kind of like if you think of us like with tweezing our eyebrows, you'll see many when we get to a certain age, we tweeze it to the point where, it's like picking, you're trying to make one even with the other. And then after a while, you have no eyebrows. That's actually what we're doing to our hair. So, I've actually become comfortable with everything. Sometimes maybe I'll take a little castor oil or aloe and go here, but I had tweezed my eyebrows to a point where almost they don't really grow back over here. So this is like a picking, and anxiety that we have around our hair and our skin and our beauty that is fostered by the quote unquote beauty industry. So it drains our pockets and it can really mess with our esteem. Yeah, so that's what I do for my hair that's growing away. So again, people may not think that my hair is fine from the camera, but these are really, really like, I mean, maybe three and a half of these can fit in a pencil. These are actually really thin. And so, in them growing together, they're growing in flat. And again, I found that actually it's great because when your hair is not very dense, when you twist it, you'll see your whole scalp. I find my scalp does not itch. It pretty much doesn't itch at all. Maybe if I got some dust in it from the garden, but my scalp can breathe. It feels this is such a relief. So would I have loved big congas? Yes, I would, but this is what I have. So I'm really in what I would call radical self acceptance, right? For actually for many years, I had taken off my earrings. I had taken off all jewelry. I used to love mascara. I wasn't a big makeup wearer ever, but I used to love mascara. And I just sat with mascara and I took everything off. Even my clients were like, "Aren't you even going to wear any lip gloss?" And I was like, "No." And that was my own meditation and sitting with myself. I remember even taking off my earrings. I got nervous and put them back in. But just for me, it was my own personal experimentation with just sitting with myself. And I don't need anything to be beautiful. And I'll have to just start to sit and look and appreciate myself. So it's only, I would say in a recent year and a half that I started to put things back on. I love your lash. Your skin is beautiful. Atanuke, thank you so much. Listen, I keep it real. My face was looking like the sidewalk. If you look recently around my cycle and eating too many nuts, I don't eat any processed foods. But my computer may shut off a bit. But it's always amazing to me. I'm just going to plug my computer. And if somebody says my skin is beautiful because my skin was looking jacked up. Excuse me for one moment. I'm just going to plug in the computer. So it's always amazing if someone says that my skin is beautiful because my skin was looking it was looking pretty jacked up. And it was looking jacked up from working, not sleeping. And just some of the anxiety that comes, chocolate women really working and grinding and struggling. So it's always amazing to me when we're born, we're beautiful and natural. Everyone is beautiful in our natural state. But as someone, if you've ever had, I don't know if any of you can relate, if you've ever had a lot of acne, some people can find it depressing. It's a downer. When I used to do fitness competitions, I would have traded the whole physique just to have clear skin. So now in the rare times where I do get a blemish, I relax. I do not pick it, which I used to have scars all over my face. So this is like recent, but I just relax, right? It's one thing just to relax into your body and know, being that I don't eat junk food, that the body is cleansing and healing and building all the time. We just got to get out of the way and stop clogging it, which a lot of times we do very unconsciously, right? As a reaction, which becomes habitual to stress, right? So for somebody to say that my skin is beautiful is like, because my skin was looking at the sidewalk. So if you look at some of the older videos, I'll show it. And then even using products from the health food store, that's not what cleared up my skin. My skin cleared up from me leaving it alone and primarily through what I'm eating. So, oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome, Natalie. So my skin cleared up on its own when I just got out of the way. And so that's through eating whole, I would say living food. I like to make the distinction of living foods without the labels, right? Whole fresh fruits, vegetables, not so much nuts, and usually soaked nuts. So if I eat too much nuts, particularly around my cycle, my body can't handle all of the fat. So your body is telling you a story all the time. But nuts and seeds, even more so than a bunch of oil, right? The food in its original package, legumes, which I eat sprouted, and I eat everything at this point, everything unprocessed, which is amazing to me because I was a junk food junkie. It was bad. And I'm also trained as a chef. So obesity and morbid obesity runs in my family. So also, I don't have half of my thyroid. So it's very, very easy. I gain weight very, very easily. I love to move and be active, which is a really good habit, which saves me. So I have a lot of good habits, but at this point, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to have found the way that I'm eating where my food is unprocessed. I would say that's made the biggest deal. I will go out and be active. I like to be active and ride my bicycle with my produce. So today is market day. I will be going over to the market. So I love to do market hauls to really share with women that you can eat healthy, right? So you can eat healthy on a budget. I feel confident. I used to work in the airline industry. I feel confident that if you drop me anywhere on the planet, that I can eat very, very healthy. Even if you gave me $5, right? So it means that you'll have to cut and learn how to cut to a certain size and marinate your food. But your food, I would say, is like, and your health is like your biggest beauty product. That and also getting vigorous movement around. So that for me is not a diet; it's a lifestyle, and it's so pleasant. It's self care. Once you get into the mindset and you start doing certain things for yourself, when you cultivate a movement practice, I encourage everyone, even if you have a small space, to create a movement practice for which I did initially many years ago. Before I had my son and after I had my son, I did it primarily because of how it made me feel. And then your form or what your body looks like is going to follow your function. So whatever you're doing is what your body's going to look like and feel like, if that makes sense. So the way that I approach things is in a very real way because I can't fake it, but I approach things in a very real way. And that's what I found. It has helped make movement more like play and make it more sustainable, as a lifestyle. So when you love the lifestyle, like similar to food, I like to say, if you have so many treats, there's no need to cheat. Because sometimes, I can relate to all folks, but I really like to share with my sisters because I wish somebody would have shared this information with me. And I have found different mentors and people over the years. But sometimes we're really struggling with our esteem. Many of us are struggling with our weight. We're really in our head. We're looping all different types of trauma. So a natural lifestyle found is huge in your toolbox. It's huge. And then when we don't have to worry about our hair, it's just one less thing to have to worry about. We can have body in our hair. You don't have to have hairstyles, that are too tight. It's all these distractions, it's all these annoyances and distractions, and they take up a lot of your attention when you could be playing, right? You could be playing. I'm not a big basketball player, but I'm the type to buy myself a basketball and go out to the basketball court and play. I have a little trampoline to play. I have my hula hoop. This is my latest addition, which for years I was going back and forth about getting because of the stigma attached to it. But it's like you own your sensuality and your body. So it's play, it's yours, So I think sometimes we can get boxed down by society and religion. Enjoy your body, enjoy your time with yourself. I like to make my home my little sanctuary. So I like having a little herbal garden. So I can go in if my skin has an issue, I can pull something right from the garden to eat, right? And I also to put on my hair and my skin. It's freeing, it's liberating, it's so relaxing. So I'm just here to I'm encourage folks, not with any dogma. Everyone has your own journey. You'll have to discover things on your own journey. But you can also learn from others and perhaps shorten your learning curve, where, for example, it doesn't have to take you 20, 30 years to adopt a healthy lifestyle and healthy lifestyle habits. It doesn't have to take you 20, 30 years. You know, I could have saved so much more money from the health food store on products and supplements, all these years of searching to find ways to clear my skin and to work with my hair. So if we really think about it as chocolate women, we spend so much time because we want attention. We want to be chosen. We want to feel beautiful and at home in our skin. So I'm just here. Hopefully you'll enjoy the content that I put on this channel, because it's like sharing it with me. Or if there's another young woman or even a more mature woman out there, a lot of us just don't are struggling with, we don't feel attractive. And we can hear all these nice sayings, oh, you gotta love yourself, you gotta love yourself. When I was young, I really didn't even know what that meant. Do you eat less rice? And if so, do you replace it with? Which is amazing. Now, you know what's so funny, Natalie? I don't eat rice at all. And I'm gonna tell you, it's amazing that I can say that I don't eat rice. So again, you'll find your own journey. I've gone from rice, white. Now, let me say this. I grew up on meat. I grew up on animal flesh products, right? My family is Afro from the South, African American, and then also Caribbean Bajan, and also African American from the South. So, you know, our Haitian, African American mix, our African and African Americans, all us from all over the diaspora. But I grew up eating a lot of white rice on the southern side, Afro folk soul food, collard greens and uh, lima beans and rice, you know, inexpensive foods that we would use, you know, the starchy foods with a little slither of meat. Also with collard greens on Sunday and lots of fried chicken and stuff like that. So the southern side. And then on the West Indian side, more rice and peas with coconut milk. You know, all of the foods. My family on both sides get burned. But I would say there is a lot of morbid obesity in my family. And I'm someone from a young age that I watch patterns. And if women, we pay attention, we notice patterns. So there was a lot of obesity. My family was very religious coming up in the Pentecostal church. You know, my family, when my mother was coming up, church was more important than school, right? And if I was to go to my old neighborhood, if they still have the cross, my grandpa had built the cross that was in that church. But anyway, there was a lot of white rice. I remember the bags of white rice, huge bags, because back then my grandparents had 8 or 9 children, so they would buy things in bulk for to prepare food for the family. So if I look at it now from a chef's perspective, it's very cheap rice. And I found in the Caribbean and folks also in Africa, a lot of times, a lot of the ground provision or the cassava and the yams and those things, sometimes they don't get as much play, right? Because culturally, we've been indoctrinated to want the rice, right? And it's cheaper starch. I found the cheaper starch can have a tendency, if I look at patterns of people, we have a tendency to put on quite a bit of a midsection. And I've worked with a lot of different populations, right? And I find that, you know, if you think of cows and animals, what do they give them to fatten them up? Starch. So I find we eat too much starch and it doesn't have enough fiber in it. Our portions, we don't feel full. Women that like to cook, a lot of times we're tasting and tasting and tasting plates, which I watch the women in my family do, especially around holidays and Sundays. And we're eating so much starch. Now, from a fitness perspective, bodybuilders and fitness competitors will eat very bland food. They'll eat a little bit of white rice with a little bit of chicken breast and a little bit of broccoli. But again, as somebody that's competing in fitness, who wants to live like that? It's very boring. So I don't eat rice right now. Actually, I don't eat any cooked food unless it's cooked by the sun. And not that you have to mimic me, but that's been a process over years. So I'm eating when I'm eating, right? Rather than think of a label, I'm eating for vitality. I'm eating for my mood. I'm eating to preserve my beauty. I'm eating so that I have energy. And I find that certain foods, even too much nuts, if it's all natural, will weigh me down. They don't energize me. And also, even when I switch from white rice to brown rice, which is a big difference, right? Because there are a lot of nutrients in the quote unquote endosperm, or the hull that's covering the rice, which is removed so that the rice can have more shelf life. But that adds a lot of fiber. So if we're eating a lot of starch, starch, starch without the fiber, and we're eating too much, it gets deposited right around the midsection. Trying so hard to stop, but I need to replace it. So let's see. So some of the things that I eat instead of rice. So I can kind of, okay. So let's see if you can go with me here. I like to think of, I knew both of my great grandmothers, which were in their 90s, and my grandma Lou, who I spent time with in the kitchen, who was in her 90s. I talk about Grandma Lou all the time. And Grandma Lou said, if I want garbage, I mean me own garbage. But she didn't eat garbage. She ate her own food. So that paradigm, I like to think of my grandmothers. They took one ingredient and they did so many different things with it. So I call it the ways of the grandmothers, because I'm always thinking about my grandmothers. And my mother says, I have the spirit of my great grandmother. So I can take any food and I'll manipulate the texture and the flavor of the food. I think of how I want it to taste. Now, some things are never going to taste like starch or taste like flesh when you transition, right, to eating more of a plant-based consumption, right? So I can take a cauliflower and make that like a rice. I could even manipulate a cabbage to make it taste like a rice. So what I'm doing is I'm manipulating the texture, I'm manipulating the presentation, and then I play with the flavor. Because if you think about it, would you eat a whole bunch of just plain starchy rice without gravy and without salt? Would you eat animal flesh if it wasn't cooked, right? If it didn't have salt and flavorings on it? So I have a different way that I'm thinking about the food. There are many things that I used to eat that now don't really occur to me as food. I call them like substances masquerading as food, if that makes sense. So the way that I'm thinking, I think saves me a lot of time just with my hair, the simplicity of it. So I don't eat rice now. But I will say this very realistically. If I did not enjoy my food, there's no way I would be able to sustain the way that I'm eating. And even when I was doing fitness competitions, I always knew I don't want to diet. I do not want to live on a diet. And I want to find a way that I can live while my weight is stabilized, even as I mature in my years, and I just don't have to worry. I don't want to have to worry about my hair, and I don't want to have to worry about my my weight. So I feel like I found the sweet spot with that, and so now I can tweak here and there, and I can have fun, and my food is very pleasurable, but I don't have to eat rice. So I know many years ago, if I look back, I couldn't have conceived of even eat a whole bunch of food. You know, sweet potato not cooked. I mean, can you even do that? There are a lot of things I couldn't even consider. It just wasn't on my radar. I couldn't imagine eating food the way that I do, but I don't eat rice. But I can manipulate the textures and the flavors of foods. And let's say another good way to think about it, Natalie, is like this. What's most of your body is what? Water, right? We hear all the time that we should be drinking more water or water. Some people say that's a New York accent, but we should be drinking a lot more water. So the way I like to think about it is Mother Nature has the most perfect water. And again, as somebody that's had a lot of acne, right? If you're eating a lot of dried food and a lot of oil, then think about your blood is going to get very thick and viscous, right? It's going to be very thick. So if that's thick, then you're going to see that it's like too much fats and stuff in your skin. Either your things you eat can become clogged and lodged inside your body, or if you're eating also a lot of water in your food, you're going to see it reflected in your skin. So Atanuke Ajibiki, hope I'm saying your name right. Here in Nigeria, rice and gari, cassava, is a staple. And they're also inexpensive foods. So I would encourage people make use of what's available to you. But I would say this, let me know that there's like, how can I say that? I think there are secrets. The grandmothers have secrets. That's why I'm so into grandmothers. One day I'm going to be a grandma. And if not, I'm going to have I'm going to have a lot of children and young people around me. And I'm going to pass this wisdom down because I know I got a lot through sitting next to my grandma grating coconut. But did you know there's so many greens that you could be eating? So you have rice, right? But you also have ground provision and cassava. So, and if you have yams and sweet potatoes, do you know there are there are greens that grow from that? And they're very inexpensive and easy to plant. So I have some gardening videos on this channel. I encourage I encourage everybody can grow something. Grow something. So let me know if you'd like to see more on that. Maybe I need to do something on those particular greens because I feel like health should be accessible to folks. Unfortunately, if we're making positive use of the internet, you could you could tune in on the internet, right? So I watch a girl in China that's growing food. I don't have any problem getting information from anybody that I need to. But I would say if you can get more greens are your friend, and learn how to prepare them. If you can get onions and get your hands on some tomatoes, I highly encourage, even if you have a little small area. Even when I was in an area in a colder part of the north, but not a lot of space, I started growing things in containers. So you can grow small herbs. There are even some bags that you can order, or you can find containers. You can get really creative because I've even grown kale and vegetables inside of bags, right? So you can grow greens and vegetables in bags. So even if you just get scallions, which you can grow, ginger, you can grow turmeric. These things are so medicinal and healing for your body, right? Even if you have a small area, grow something. Those are your beauty foods, right? And you're going to learn so much just by growing a few things that you can use for your beauty. But if you can get your hands on greens, you can grow scallions, you can grow thyme, you can grow rosemary. If in Nigeria you have drier ground, but the yam and the sweet potato, you can grow greens from that very easily. And then you can even take the cuttings once the greens grow. You can take the cuttings and put them back into the ground and they'll grow. So greens are a staple. Instead of just eating the starch, look at our midsection. We're eating the starch, and then we put salt with the starch, and we take so much palm oil. If you're in Nigeria or in Ghana, we use a lot of palm oil, and you see like our eyes get very bloodshot. We're eating too much oil and fat, and that's traditional. So sometimes in learning something new and adding on in a positive way to the traditions that we were raised with, it'll mean sometimes taking the best. I like to think of taking the best of what the elders and the ancestors have given us, and it's for us to add on, right? And the tradition of Kwanzaa, or the holiday of Kwanzaa, it's like to leave our community and our legacy more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it, right? So to add on a new chapter. So I like to think of like all the foods. My grandma Lou made the best coconut bread, and oh my gosh, she would make peas and rice and all of that. And I loved her food. But also, if I ate that way, I would be very overweight. So it wouldn't work for me. So what do? I just upgrade a lot of the southern and also the tropical or the Caribbean recipes. So I'm adding so much more vegetables. If you think you're adding vegetables, you probably multiply that times 5 or 10, and that's how many vegetables that I'm eating. So I don't have to worry about I don't want to be worrying about my hair. I don't want to be worrying about my weight, and I want to do it in a way where I don't have to be dependent on these health food stores. With the health food stores, if people, where I'm at now, the tropical region where I'm at, people aren't going to health food store because for many people, the common folks, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. It's not sustainable. So again, like with this unique beauty stamp, I really feel passionately that health should be accessible to us. It's our birthright, But again, I think it's important. It's going to require a bit of a re-education to what we can use that's around us, what we can do that's sustainable, and how we can maximize our money, right? So we're not constantly at the beauty supply store, which will bleed your pockets. You could be using that for seeds to plant and to invest in your garden. So for any of the folks that are on from Africa, if you're familiar, there's a woman, she passed some years ago. Her name was Wangari Maathai. So if anybody out there knows who Wangari Maathai is, she's from Kenya. Look her up. And there's also, you might be able to see it on YouTube. There's a documentary called Dirt. Look it up, and I'd love to hear back from you. Leave some comments if you've ever seen the documentary Dirt. And Wangari Maathai is there. You should find a lot of information on her. But she won a Nobel Peace Prize, and she was very revolutionary. So I adopt her spiritually as one of my mothers, right? So she was educated by missionaries, college educated. She went back to Africa because there's a lot of deforestation in Africa, actually around the world, right? So she really went back and she was passionate about the trees and replanting trees. So she got the sisters together and she started replanting trees. And people were telling her she couldn't do it because, you needed more education to do it. And she was like, I don't think so. I don't think so. You need the seeds and put this stuff, plant the stuff in the ground. It's her tradition, right? It's like similar to in the States. At one point, they were debating and trying to check this out. They were trying to pass a law where chocolate women would have to go to cosmetology school in order to do braids. Now, imagine somebody telling you that you need a certification to do what is your tradition that you've been doing in your house forever. That's ridiculous. But anyway, check out Wangari Maathai and the documentary Dirt, so it can inspire you. You'll also see what's this woman's name from India, Vandava Shiva, who's from India, and she's big on seed saving. So some people may not think this stuff is connected. As somebody that's worked in health and fitness in the industry as a trainer and as a competitor, and worked in a holistic health center, I can tell you that people would think like, okay, weight loss, grow something. I can tell you they're totally connected. There's so much to be said for a mentality of a garden lifestyle, right? If you're planting things, you're going to get so much information just from growing a couple of plants, right? It will give you a whole nother respect for the food that you're putting into your body, and then it's really an epiphany. It's almost like a baby being born when you finally grow something. And maybe that's somebody that's lived mostly in the States. It was like amazing to me. I didn't grow up on a farm, right? So I've had siblings that grew up in the Caribbean. I grew up not in the Caribbean, in a colder climate. So when you're able to grow something, a green pepper or a bunch of hot peppers and aloe, it's like babies being born. And then when you taste it and it's delicious, you'll start to be able to taste if the soil has been composted, which is incentive. I wouldn't call myself a big builder, but I took some old pallets and some chicken wire and some bricks, and I made a compost bin system from all the fruits and vegetables I'm eating. So there's so many more things we could be spending our time with, right? This is what I would love to see. I really want to see even more of an economy that's totally connected to this unique beauty stamp, and to see what we can create economically for ourselves with growing our food, even if it's not a farm, even if you have a small space. Somewhere on this channel, I've created some links. If anybody is interested in, and also on my website, I created a kit for people that have a small space, so you can grow in bags. I've grown in all kinds of recycled containers and bags, herbs, greens, vegetables, because also if you want healthy hair and skin, that's actually an incentive for many women, sometimes vanity, to start eating better, right? So many folks may be on a budget, or you may be tight on your time in terms of you have to work, but it can be done. It can be done. It can be done. It can be done. So there are other things that you can eat instead of the rice and the gari, but it's going to be a learning curve. If you're in Nigeria or in Ghana, the yams and the sweet potatoes are your friend. I would say those are some of the best foods that you can eat very inexpensively, and they're easily accessible. So the sweet potato and the yam and the green vegetables that grow from them, which you may be totally overlooking, can be like a new staple for you. Scallions can grow very easily. Anything that you eat, put the seed in the ground and see how it grows. Also, the pumpkin. The pumpkin is a wonderful food, and there are ways that you can prepare it whole and living, which may be another concept. I don't know. You folks let me know if you have anybody in Ghana or Nigeria that you know. Have you ever encountered anybody that doesn't eat food that's fired by the stove? Or do you have any dishes there that are prepared that are kind of like hand marinated, where you're not cooking all the life out of the vegetables? So maybe some folks can't really even conceive now of eating whole living foods. I don't know. Let me know. But I do know I'm seeing more and more people, which is interesting. I'm hearing the talk of veganism, and it's not just about the label. For me, it's more about your results and your health. But I'm starting to hear more of that awareness coming out of Africa, which is interesting, because I know in certain parts you have more meat and starch and gari and what is it, fufu. It's a lot of starch, but it's also the oils and the salt and the frying, that's adding a lot of waste to our waistline. So you do have the opportunity for more of an active lifestyle. It depends if you're living in a rural area or if you're living in the city. But again, for our beauty, for our natural beauty and our health, we have stuff that's there. We just got to reactivate that information. So that's why I'm sharing some of that on this channel. So again, I'm just going to revisit really quickly for those women that have very fine textured hair. Again, I have a hair texture that many women will say that they hate because it just doesn't do. It doesn't like to be forced into all kind of styles. It's like you're trying to make me do this, but I'm not that. This is what I am, and this is what I'm going to do. It's not very thick or dense. The locks are coming. I just washed it, so it's drying here. So it has a natural shine. There's absolutely no oil, but because it's clean, you can see it has a very natural sheen to it. So this would be an Afro in the middle. But you can see now the difference between this, look at these little teeny things, and this, where they've grown together. It's nice and pliable because it doesn't have a lot of oil in it. Would you say that your lock journey is simultaneous? Oh, of course. Of course. I guess I don't think about it so much as a spiritual journey. I don't think about that. Maybe many years ago I might have thought about it, but it's like, it's just, we could say spiritual, but how do you be spiritual? Because you are spirit, having a human experience. But in a sense, yes, definitely, definitely. Because again, the very act of sitting with yourself and like, this may sound weird, but I can only share, just sitting with yourself and being with yourself and an appreciation. Like, how can I say? It's not so mookajuk and, spiritual. I think also I'm in this place where I'll say spirituality to me at this point is practical. It's very practical and it's simple. And I think there's so many different factions competing, especially for women, competing for our attention, competing for your mind space, religions and all kind of people giving you bits of truth, but manipulating us at the same time. Whereas health, again, is your best beauty product is health, right? Then you don't have to buy bigger clothing sizes, right? You don't have to feel like you're in a whole stroll where you feel pressured like with this anxiety where you have to be all the time at the beauty supply store with, if you wear those things fine as an enhancement, but if we're honest, it's like most of us, we don't feel good enough in our hair. We don't feel attractive. It's been like an exercise just to sit with myself. And my hair doesn't grow, it grows away from the lock. So if I were to look at most of the YouTube videos, people say you can't have freeform hair because this is the reason why you don't do freeform hair, and you have to twist it because it's going to get very weak. But I found very simply, when it gets a certain length, I just take it and I just push it right inside and I keep it moving and it will mat on its own. So it's simple, but it is learning to sit with, it's not going to look like other people's hair. So once we just sit in acceptance, that to me is spirituality. It's being realistic, and it's also yeah, it's like it is what it is. And not me, all the programs in my head romanticizing of what I think my hair should look like, even in terms of all the baby hairs, these are soft, it's not, this is what it looks like. So in terms of spirituality, I would say a radical self acceptance. And then also throughout the years, even as a loose natural, find what hairstyles work with your hair, right? There are a lot of hairstyles, if I would try, my hair would look so thin that it just wouldn't look complimentary. Like the hairstyle I was waiting for years to get, this cornrow hairstyle. When I finally got it after all those years that I could afford to get it, it did not look the same on my hair because my hair just wasn't dense. So it would look scalpy. And even with the best hair braiders, every time I would cornrow, which I adore cornrows. But once my scalp is exposed, I don't even last like a couple of days. I could spend buku money to get it done, and I have to take it out because my scalp starts itching profusely. Totally clean, not done tightly. But my hair, anytime, like clockwork, when my scalp is exposed and pulled like that, it starts itching. I have no itching with this, and it's nice and clean. I don't have to scratch and have anything, in my fingernails. Yes, my lock journey definitely simultaneous. My whole natural journey, I would say, is simultaneous with, if you will, a spiritual journey, or when I say spirit, just sitting in radical self-acceptance of this is what I look like. This is what my hair looks like. Noticing if I'm overly concerned and even stressed out about what I think other people think about me. Right. And I found when you sit with yourself and when you can look in the mirror and you find yourself beautiful and you're comfortable, you can slow down. like the pace we're moving at makes you almost like anxious. That anxiety, that to me, if you will, is not spiritual, because it's like you're outside of yourself. You're all in your mind thinking about other people. You're not sitting and you're not comfortable. So there's a confidence that you walk with when you're healthy and when you can love you and appreciate yourself. We want other people to appreciate us, and we don't really fully appreciate ourselves. And can we take when we take the makeup, and I'm not going to demonize people enhancing themselves, because I like to beautify and play. It's just like I like things that are natural. Um, but do you feel comfortable? Can you feel comfortable if you take all of that stuff off? And then also in a practical sense, that's costing young women out. That costs us a lot of money. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of time. So I think others profit from our insecurity, right? And we're waiting for validation. So I validate myself. I'm very comfortable in my skin. I do everything I can to keep my body as healthy as possible. Again, I'm eating for vitality, to preserve my beauty, my energy. I'm eating for longevity. I'm eating to be pain free. So that goes beyond the level or the label of a vegan, if that makes sense. So it's a it's definitely it definitely is a journey, right? And sometimes you'll have company, but most of the time it'll be on your own, and you'll cross people's path, which is why I think it's wonderful to make a positive use of the internet. But if we could just relax and calm down and be comfortable in our skin. So again, my exercise that I did was I took everything off. I took everything off. I mean, even when I think about it, I took everything off to just be comfortable with myself. I've gone periods, long periods. Now I'm nothing, of no oil, no nothing. And also see what your body would do. There's almost like a fear. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be ugly. Oh my gosh, I won't look good for the job. You'll be creative as a woman, and you'll figure it out. But for me, at least that's my journey. It's a personal commitment to myself of radical self acceptance, and definitely spiritual. Same thing as a health journey. Yeah, natural journey. I think is a health journey. Something could still happen to me eating all these whole living foods. I could still get sick. I could still get hit by a car. But I've made a choice to be responsible. So for me, I'll take my chances with my juicer and my herbs in my little garden. And I trust my grandmas, my grandma Lou, my grandma Mackie, my great grandma Mackie, my great grandma Jean. They were all in their 90s. And so my grandmother that drank diet soda, that ate all the rice, soda, and then diet soda. She was morbidly obese. Her feet were bursting open from diabetes. She had to rest her stomach up on her arm. She seemed angry, which I realized she was in a lot of discomfort. So I feel I'll take my chances with eating my own food and my juicer, um, my fruits and vegetables, because the proof is in the pudding. And those women all had a different demeanor. They ate their own food and they were simple. They were simple. Their skin was looking great. My grandma Mackie, her skin was looking great in her 90s. And those women put olive oil and castor oil on their face. They didn't have all of these beauty products. They took one thing. They had to. They had to take one thing and do so many different things with it. So that's why I say that I'm just into, I call it the ways of the grandmothers. At least that's how I'm channeling it. That's how it comes up for me, is the way of the grandmothers. I trust that. And it's for me to, or I'm called, or it resonates. It makes sense to me to take the different things they did with herbs, or just some of the principles, even though they weren't vegan or vegetarian or cruel, they made use of what they had. They did the best that they could with what they had. And so I'm adding on to what they've done with the herbs and the castor oil and all of that other stuff. I love stuff like that. I love it, love it, love it. I love that lifestyle. So I'm going to get ready. Let's see what time it is to go to the market. I like to go to the market when it's kind of dark. I don't know. Let me know what your markets are like there in Ghana, in Nigeria. Is it just the ground provision? I know you have a lot of tomatoes and okra, which is a wonderful. Maybe I need to do a video on okra and do a bit more on the beauty foods, right? So because I'm eating also for beauty, So can you imagine we're putting all this stuff on our face, covering it up, but are we eating for beauty? Which doesn't make it, because it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. Maybe I'm just simple. But again, when I think of my grandmothers as a standard, we're putting all this cover up on, but we're still eating a lot of the same foods. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. So, there's so many simple foods. You have onions, you have tomatoes, you have okra, and all of those foods that actually have medicine in them, especially if you're not overcooking them, right? If you're not cooking them to death, they have what? They have whole living water. So if you think of your skin as being vibrant, it's vibrant because it's full of water. And if it's elastic, that's because it's the food, it's in the food. And if the food, I would say, is cruelty free, first of all, to me, I'm being cruelty free to my breasts and to my organs. I'm eating cruelty free. So I invite you just to maybe just think about it for a minute. Maybe after this video, you'll think about it. But I'm being cruelty free to me first. And then it makes sense. It makes me more sensitive to think of being cruelty free to others, especially someone whose ancestors had the experience of slavery, right, and who is still experienced the trickle down trauma from it. I don't. To me, it doesn't make sense to torture animals. Now, I do understand. I respect everyone's food choices. I used to eat a lot of meat. If I felt that would be very healing to me, then I would eat it. But this is just where I am right now. So I'm not telling any grown folks what to do. You'll have to find your own way on your own journey. I can just simply share, and perhaps that will shorten your learning curve. So it's interesting how this hair is so connected to the food and a natural lifestyle. So I'm going to show one more time because my hair is very fine. It's not very dense. I don't often get to see what it looks like from the back. So I think in the back, you can see more now that where it's going flat. And it feels really nice to my hands because it's not very compact or dense. It feels nice and spongy and soft. It doesn't feel like it's packed down with oil. So again, it's for me, it's about a radical self-acceptance. Would you say that your lock journey? Okay. So I read that already. So I hope all you folks create a wonderful day, create a great day on purpose. I'm going to go over to the market. I do post sometimes on Facebook, which I wasn't using for a while, but I'm starting to post a little bit more on there when I go to the Saturday market. So on Facebook, I'm on Facebook. I have to remember it's a different name. It's Kwasa Peaceful Eating. So Kwasa Peaceful Eating. And I just recently went ziplining, which was addressing a lot of fear. I love learning. So I'm learning Mandarin. What's your, wait, how do I say it? Nehoma, what's your shisha? So not perfect, but I love languages. I love learning. So I think I'm really about making a positive use of the internet. I have another channel, which I haven't put a lot of things on it, called Coco Think Tank. So, I am a mother. And you know how we ask our children, I don't know if you have children yet or if you plan on having children, but we always ask the children, what did you learn new today? And I think adults, that can apply to us too. We can get kind of stiff and stuck and stop learning and caring for everybody else. So I absolutely adore learning. And when I was a little girl, I wanted to learn every language in the world. So I understand a little Spanish. Little Spanish. Yo comprendo español es un poquito. Yo aprender español in escuela primo. So usually if I'm in the market, that encouraged me to use Spanish. When I went over to Guatemala with my sister, that really was busting my brain, because if you spoke a little Spanish, they would start speaking to you in Spanish. It would force me to speak in Spanish. But I really love languages. So I'm giving up on trying to be perfect and perfection and just exploring it. And it feels really good to be in a classroom again with a bunch of other adults and even playing games around learning. I think we learn a lot more when we're having fun, right? When it's pleasant, I think the brain is more open and things can go in. You went to the mini market today and you bought okra too. Oh, you really? Oh, wow. Very colorful and busy. Oh my gosh. I would love to I love markets. Anywhere I go on the planet, I love markets. And I'll say my favorite markets have been in Paris, Israel. I don't remember if I went to the market in Spain. I like the Belize market. And actually, I found good markets also in New York, because in New York, I can go to Little Korea, Chinatown, I would frequent on a bicycle, and also even Brooklyn, the farmer's market in Brooklyn. So I absolutely love. Habla español también. Oh, I speak Spanish a little good. Thank you. I'll try it. So I like to learn. So if you're interested in language, gardening, creating a movement practice. So, so let me let you know that is what I do. I am a chef, a professional chef, but I like my focus is whole, fresh, living foods. I'm really about health. I don't want to be an overweight chef or unhealthy chef. Also, I want to enjoy. I really enjoy my food, and I'm also big on helping folks create a personal movement practice. So, check out Quasa Peaceful Eating. There is the Black Raw Vegan Food and Fitness page. Even if you're not a vegan, again, it's not about the labels. It's more about your results and more into character, right? Because just because you eat vegan food, that doesn't mean you're a nice person. So I'm all about the character and the results. But I do post over there. We are having a retreat in Central America. My sister and I, it's a small retreat. So just for folks that have been asking, for those women that do have some vacation time, or some of those folks that may be single and looking for something to do. We don't drink, we don't smoke, but we have a lot of fun. So we're going to visit the sacred mind sacred sites. We're going to be doing all kinds of fitness, African dance, Afro flow yoga, which I'm teaching here in Central America. What else? Oh, we're going to be doing classes in whole living foods. My sister is a fantastic artist. She thinks with her hands. She also does weaving. She's a lot of fun, really creative fashionista. So we are going to be having a retreat here in Central America. So if you can't come, could you put the links in the description, please? So let me see. How can I put the links in the description? Maybe I'll put it up on the video after. But if you go, she has it on her site at DelilahFitness.com. And then also there's the Black Raw Vegan Food and Fitness page on Facebook. And we're there every Sunday. So we do a live on Sunday. Hold on, there's some busy bees over here. Let's see. And then I'm also on Body-Culinary on Instagram. So I'll post, if you scroll down through there, you can see if those folks that are interested in gardening, some of the stuff that I've grown in bags. So I've grown a lot of stuff in bags. I've grown kale. I still got collard greens that fed me most of the year. And I have some coming back again. Collard greens, you can grow collard greens in Africa. Sometimes in different tropical regions, we'll have different names for the same foods, or like spinaches, you can have different varieties. Like you may have callaloo if you have callaloo. And if you have coconuts, coconuts are a staple. So a lot of staples you can trade up. So I'm Body-Culinary on IG. And where else am I? Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And then also my website is body-culinary.com. So yeah, I'll put those there. So it's going to be a nice retreat. It's going to be so much fun. So it's whole living foods and fitness. And then we may, for those folks that are interested in art, folks that would like to do, like, there's an artist tour over to Guatemala. So when my sister and I go to Guatemala, I don't even mention this stuff on this channel, right? If you want to learn how to do fabric dyeing, backstrap weaving, making sneakers, if you want to experience what you do, carving into these stone plates. So that's a private artist retreat. So if there's some women out there that just want to have an adventure on their own, treat yourself, live your life like it's golden. This past weekend, I addressed some fears by going zip lining, which was, I didn't expect it to be so much fun. Look, okay, let me talk about this. I'm gonna get off of here. So it's like zip lining. I've heard about it, but I wasn't really, I was like, who cares about zip lining? It was absolutely amazing. So you're like, they hook you up in these cables and you're zooming over the forest canopy. Oh my gosh. I was so nervous, but I was like, I'm nervous, but I'm going to do this anyway. Cause that's how I got to Okinawa in Japan. I was nervous about swimming. You know what they say with chocolate folks and swimming, right? But I got in that pool anyway. And so I decided to zip line. So it's really, for me, just about facing fears. Plus there was a 90-year-old woman that was there handling her business and living her life like it was golden with her daughter and her granddaughter. So I was like, what's your excuse? And then right after the zip lining, we went cave tubing. Oh my goodness, which was so amazing. So I don't think I would ever do that by myself, but we're about 45 minutes in these dark caves with just a helmet on, with a light on your helmet, and floating down through these dark, beautiful caves. At some point you have to get off and you walk through the rocks, and you're in these underground caves, and there's bats and stuff, but there's some natural wonders in there. that were just amazing. So it's just one of those moments in life, which I really feel like you're rewarded when you face your fears. So I'll do little things like that to face my fears. And so some weeks before that, my sister and I went to the Mayan sacred sites, and we climbed all the way up, which was it was really, really high. But once you got to the top, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful and stunning. So it's just one of those moments, like doing things like that. You demonstrate to yourself in small ways that you can do anything. So those are in my frame of reference. And sometimes I even have to remind myself of things that I've done. Because sometimes in life, you're going to have to be your own hero, right? Instead of waiting for validation, instead of waiting for somebody to, you're right, you're welcome, Deborah. Instead of waiting for somebody to ask you to dance, or instead of letting society toss you away. If you are 30 to 35 and maybe you're not married, or you don't have children, or maybe you had children and you're a single parent, or or you're in a career you don't care about, it's for really, you're going to have to chart your own way. You're going to have to chart your own way and really get the most juice out of your life, because sometimes you can follow all the rules and things don't turn out as they're planned, right? I mean, look at this hair. It's not programmed to what we thought it would be, or we try to make it be. So you gotta have to chart your own life and have you're gonna have to create a life that you really want, and so you really want to be here, even if you've been traumatized, even if you've been victimized. I invite you to write a new narrative. I invite you to write a new narrative, because it's still our responsibility to find our way through the puzzle, right? And create and craft the kind of life that we want for ourselves. So anyway, I'm going to sign off and get myself ready to go to the market and do something creative. So you folks create a great day on purpose. Subscribe to the channel. Share this video. If you know somebody that said they hate their hair, right? It can grow when you just get out of the way and stop letting it break off, and we just let it free up. It frees up so much space psychologically. Okay. See y'all soon.